Brasilia, a city planned and built from scratch. The idea of moving Brazil's capital from the coast in Rio to a more central region was born when the country was still a Portuguese colony to avoid possible enemy attacks from the sea. But only in 1956, the then president of Brazil, Juscelino Kubitschek, began to put into practice a project that started centuries before. 4 years later, in 1960, Brasilia was inaugurated. A landmark in the history of architecture and planning. Meticulously designed from the bottom up by architects Lúcio Costa and Oscar Niemeyer. But there was one thing they overlooked.
That was one of the mistakes they made. They forgot to plan where to put the trash, the waste.
I met Márcio Godinho on top of Brasilia's dump.
In the years, some places started to receive this material all disorganized without any control of the state. So it started to be accumulated in different points. People started to throw the waste. Even the government used these areas to dispose the waste. And in the 70s, this area concentrated all the reception of trash in the Federal District up to today.
A year ago, this was the second largest garbage dump in the world. Over 50 million tons of waste is buried here. For decades, thousands of workers and their families lived and worked here, pulling from the waste anything and everything that could be reused or resold, putting their lives and health at risk.
You cannot imagine what it was 1 year ago. Pickers working in the middle of the machines. We had several deaths caused by running over by the tractors and the trucks. They had no condition to work at all. It was something completely made you think of the Middle Ages.
The big dump, or lixão in Portuguese, was closed last year.
Uma pessoa que quer lhe conhecer, eu disse que você era...
Baiana Joelma was just 15 years old when she started collecting waste on the streets.
Isso aqui tudo é para me vender, ó. Tudinho para me vender, ó. Aqui, ó.
Baiana is known as the queen of the scavengers, and at 63, she still spends 8 hours a day collecting recyclable trash that she stores in her backyard.
Aqui é 25, quer dizer que dá R$50.
Each of these bags is worth $6, and every 3 weeks she sells what she has collected for about $200.
Tudo isso aqui é...
But she misses working in the lixão, the old dump.
O que significa o lixão para você?
Tudo, né? Porque tinha tudo.
Olha nos olhos dele, né? Então promete.
So much so that Baiana married in the lixão a few days before it was closed.
Sim! Sempre eu falei assim, no dia que eu me casar, eu vou casar no lixão, que é histórico. Aquela alegria, pronto, não esqueceu de tudo. Entendeu? Esqueceu de tudo. Tapete vermelho com mando figurinha. Foi.
Brasilia's sprawling garbage dump was just 12 miles from the presidential palace and near a national park.
Around the dump showed up a favela, right, a slum, mostly occupied by the people who lived from the garbage. This was in the 70s. There was nothing around, but they started to move and construct small huts so that they could live there near the place where they could scavenge or pick up the material to sell. 20 years after, this city was legalized, and today, although it is poor, it is one of the 31 cities that are part of the Federal District today.
The adjacent shantytown, known as Estrutural City, has over 40,000 inhabitants.
We calculated that around 1,500 waste pickers worked here, and they maintain their families from the material they picked from here, right? The recyclable material.
The presence of a dump brings several problems to the population.
The slurry produced by the organic material, that's the liquid that comes out from decomposition, infiltrates in the soil and contaminates the water, underground water.
Decomposing waste also produces flammable gases, which contributes to climate change.
So the main thing to do was to stop to bring organic material to this place and send this material to the landfill where the soil is protected. Now this area only receives the civil construction trash. That means it has no slurry. It's a material that does not compromise the underground waters. And part of this material will be recycled to produce gravel and sand to use in public constructions.
Part of the city's plan in closing down the dump was to utilize the waste picker skills in new recycling plants. Isaína worked in the lixão for almost 50 years, but at 76, she still needs the extra income to pay her overdue bills.
O lixão era melhor que a gente ganhava dinheiro. Todo dia a gente tinha dinheiro, entendeu? E aqui é bom que tem a cobertura, entendeu? Tem a cobertura. Lá eu fazia por semana, eu fazia 600, 800. Aqui o salário que nós recebemos aqui, não é salário não, nós recebemos aqui é por quinzena. Nós recebemos assim 400, 500, até 600.
Isaína's 3 children also worked in the dump. Her grandson, Rafael, doesn't even remember how old he was when he started to pick wastes there.
Nós ia todo dia, e eu pivetinho assim, ó, na carroça. Essas coisas que eu lembro assim, desde pequenininho que eu trabalhava lá. Eu trabalhava de dia e à noite. Aí tem dia que eu ia para casa às 6 horas da manhã para dormir, aí quando dava umas 2 horas da tarde, voltava para lá de novo.
Rafael is now a supervisor at one of the new recycling plants.
Pra ela, muito sol quente, porque aqui, ó, coberto, não pega chuva, não pega sol, é mais saudável, porque todo mundo com EPI, lixo armazenado, luva, máscara, óculos. Lá não, né? Lá era de qualquer jeito. O que falta mesmo é dar só uma melhoradinha na renda, entendeu? Pode dar uma melhoradinha um pouquinho ainda, né? Mas nós estamos lutando para isso, né? Vai chegar lá ainda.
Oi, gente boa.
Other scavengers are now working in cooperatives like this one. They not only collect the trash, but they also go door to door teaching residents what to recycle, making them aware of how its revenue could be helping them, and emphasizing the importance of recycling to the environment.
A 10 e a 8 agora no período da manhã, né?
Cleusimar runs one of the 11 cooperatives hired by the government to collect reusable trash. 70 waste pickers make their living from the material gathered by his company.
O governo passou a nos reconhecer não como catadores miseráveis, como coitados que querem uma cesta básica para sobreviver. O governo passou a tratar a gente como prestadores de serviço. Esse reconhecimento fez com que a nossa renda melhorasse, como a nossa autoestima foi lá em cima. A gente saiu de uma renda que era R$600 por mês e hoje na minha cooperativa não tem nenhum catador que ganha menos de R$1.000. Tem catador que ganha 2, é um pouco mais ainda do que o salário mínimo. Então, assim, foi um salto de qualidade muito grande que a gente teve, tanto financeiro como até social mesmo.
Almost all the waste pickers are now working for the government.
Some of them didn't get used to work with the uniform, time to start and time to close. They did not want to work in a cooperative.
Se eu quiser trabalhar, tem que ser mandada. Eu não sei ninguém mandar eu trabalhar não, porque eu não dou... Não.
Many residents who relied on scavenging are still without work. Local businesses are feeling the effect.
A riqueza daqui era o lixão. Depois que o lixão fechou, acabou tudo, para todo mundo, para todos os comerciantes.
Bora! Porra nenhuma! Outro lado aí. Mandou sumir, né, John?
One of the things that went up was crime.
No início, naqueles primeiros 6 meses, realmente teve um pico de aumento nos crimes contra o patrimônio. Mas depois estabilizou.
Lieutenant Guimarães patrols the area.
Todo local que é carente, né, acaba que a violência chega e ocupa espaço nesse lugar, né? Então a gente tem um índice elevado de homicídio comparado a outras regiões do DF. Quando a gente fala em crimes contra o patrimônio, estão diretamente associados ao crime de drogas. Porque eles roubam para poder consumir o entorpecente, entendeu?
This is Brasilia's new landfill for domestic waste. It was in the plans for 20 years, and in 2012 the construction began. It was opened 2 years ago. The location was carefully picked for its proximity to the garbage and sewage treatment centers. The terrain is almost even, which makes it easier to handle the soil. It is here where all the waste that cannot be reused will stay forever, under layers and layers of trash.
Quanto mais bem controlado.
Environmental engineer Marcos Oliveira works for the city of Brasilia.
Qual que é a principal diferença entre esse aterro e o lixão?
A impermeabilização da base do aterro. O aterro ele recebe toda uma preparação do solo para após recepcionar os resíduos e não acontecer a contaminação, nem do solo nem do lençol freático. No aterro sanitário, os resíduos são cobertos diariamente. A gente tem todo um controle geotécnico para ver a questão da estabilidade, se o maciço está estável. A gente tem uma preocupação muito grande com a questão de vetores, por exemplo, mosca, cachorro. Ele pode vir aqui ter contato com o lixo tem micro-organismos. Ele ir ter contato com a população, com o seu dono, no exemplo do cachorro, a mosca também na residência, e ela pode estar transmitindo algum tipo de doença. Então é muito importante a cobertura do resíduo.
Drains capture the slurry, which is deposited in this tank, and then transported to a sewage station where the water is treated. Gases emitted by the trash are also treated. Most developed countries incinerate their waste and then treat the ashes and gases produced in the process. Brasilia burns hazardous materials such as hospital waste and is studying new technologies to diminish the number of residues that are dumped in the landfills.
A landfill is not considered the best alternative anymore because you are only depositing the waste. You are not doing a correct destination. So the best alternative is to produce from the organic waste the compost that can be used in the agriculture. Brasilia already produces around 100 tons of this compost that is destined to the family agriculture units, but we can produce a lot more.
Brasilia's new landfill receives 2,500 tons of domestic waste daily. It has a 10 years life expectancy, and the city is already planning an expansion to increase its longevity.
A gente está lutando para aterrar a menor quantidade de resíduo possível, ou seja, melhorar a nossa capacidade das usinas e melhorar a questão da qualidade da coleta seletiva. Então, quando você melhora a coleta seletiva, você aterra menos resíduos, manda mais resíduos para os catadores, vai gerar mais emprego e melhorar a renda dos catadores de materiais reciclados.
It is hard to know if Brasilia's original planners would approve of the new landfill. Both passed away years ago. Did they foresee that in 60 years' time, the city they designed will be home to 3 million people, each one of them producing almost 3 pounds of trash daily? Despite all the grand plans and technological advances, for many, like Baiana, very little has changed. she still spends her days recycling other people's trash.